This is Johnny with Tiger Bomb MMA, and tonight I'm going over UFC on ABC4, Rozenstruik versus Almeida, giving you my thoughts and predictions on the entire card. If I'm being honest, it's not a card really worth a ton of my time. I don't want to take much of your time, so I'm going to go through it pretty quickly because there's not a whole ton to talk about. And I'm not one of these guys that wants to judge a book by its cover or a card by its fighters, but this card is giving me creepy vibes in the sense that it's asking me to jump in its van because it has candy. So I can make an assumption. But before I do that, I want to give you my thoughts on the previous card, UFC 288, let you know how I did, my predictions and whatnot. So let's get started that way. Also, I have a new camera. Still trying to figure out the best way to work around it. So if it looks bad, let me know. If not, looks good, let me know. But starting off, Claudio Ribeiro versus Joseph Holmes. I had a unit bet on Claudio. I was not confident in it. I even said, like, hey, stay away from this fight. But knowing myself, I can't resist a guy that dances and has purple hair. And also, like, going back and rewatching his tape when his corner was going woo, or not woo, but hey, I was like, let's put some money on him. And it was more of like Joseph Holm missing weight and the fact that Joseph Holm kind of really sucks that kind of put it in me like, let's just go for it. And ended up getting the ground and pound victory, fine and dandy. Like nothing really to comment on other than the fact that like Joseph Holm is really bad and Claudio's not as bad as Joseph Holmes. Next bout, Ikram Aliskirov knocks out Phil Hawes. I was super disappointed because Phil Hawes looked good. Phil Hawes hurt Ikram. I didn't have any money on it, or did I? No, actually, I did. I had a live bet on it, or like not necessarily live, but I bet on it before the fight started. The doesn't go the distance prop, so I just put whatever amount of money I had in my account because I knew it wasn't going to go the distance. And Phil's looking good. Phil actually hurts Ikram. Ikram kind of did the little slight chicken dance, like, "Hey, I'm a little bit hurt, but like let's bounce it out." And then the 1-2, and I kept telling people like the 1-2 of Ikram is solid. He's been working on it. I didn't expect him to land it one time and knock out Phil Hawes. That broke my heart. Like Phil is so talented, and I was rooting for Phil. It's just, Phil Hawes. Parker Porter defeats Braxton Smith. I put a small bet on Braxton, like maybe $20, just like for the fuck of it. And he was swinging. And I'm thinking, like, if one of these connects on Parker, he's done. But like as expected, like I picked Braxton just because, but Parker Porter knocking him out was like it's expected. Braxton's not very good. If he does land a punch like that, it's lights out. But Parker was smart enough to use his quote unquote black belt to get the win. Virna Jandiroba gets a unanimous decision win over Marina Rodriguez. That was a bit surprising. I didn't really want anything to do with that. I did take a small shot on Marina by knockout, or not by knockout, I'm sorry, just straight money line, like plus 300 when she was getting dominated on the ground. I did want to bet Virna live, but she wasn't a big enough dog yet. She was like maybe even money before the fight started. So I was going to wait. Maybe Rodriguez lands a knee in the clinch and defends one takedown, and that's when I can jump on it. Never came about. Like Rodriguez's takedown defense has degressed ridiculously. Like she has gotten so bad. And like we all know that her takedown defense is bad. But it got to the point where it was looking better, and now it looks ridiculously awful. Like Virna did her job. I don't think Virna's elite. I really don't think much of these ladies. Like I think they're the top of the division essentially because there's no one else there, but they're not the best in that division. It's just depressing. Chaos Williams defeats Rolando Bedoya. This one surprised me. One thing I do have to say that I was proud of that I followed up with was when I kept saying like money line is sometimes better, which was the case with Chaos. If you had money on him by knockout, you must have been ridiculously disappointed. He wasn't the best price tag. He didn't end up being a guy that lived up to his like minus 300, nearly minus 400 price tag because he didn't know how to throw straight fucking punches. But like I mentioned, Bedoya is solid. It's just that I didn't expect that kind of performance. Like he looked really good. I was really scared about that decision. I thought I had lost all my money, and I max bet him at one point. Like I said, fuck it, like just put whatever I got on him. So I made a 1 unit on him betting Chaos Williams chalk, and it gave me a scare. So it's like, hey, let's not go overboard. But Bedoya, like I think he's going to do well. As we saw, he looked very solid. What kind of bugs me about these guys coming in, and I kept mentioning like, don't fade the guy's chin if you don't know how tough they are. And the guy was eating these punches solid. the issues that I had with kind of taping him was that I've seen him get dropped. I've seen him get in the pocket, and he looked like a night and day type of fighter. He looked 10 times better than I saw on tape. So it's crazy how these guys make those leaps and bounds and or are able to like truly express who they are in the cage, opposed to like when they're in the lesser promotions, they're getting dropped by bums. So I'm like, we'll see what happens with the kid, but I'm excited to see him in the future. I think he's got a pretty decent, you know, future for him. It just depends on if he goes back to those old ways or if Chaos just had a really bad night. So I'm going to kind of keep an eye on Bedoya, maybe as a future betting option, and Chaos as well. I'm going to like chill out on him because he needs to learn. Kennedy and Zechiku defeats Devin Clark. The whole fight, I kept thinking, I want to see the African Savage. God damn it, I want to see him. And he came out. He did some nasty stuff to Devin Clark. Those elbows in the clinch against the cage were ridiculously nasty. I was surprised that Devin took him. I thought he was going to crumble. That gives him credit, though. Like, his cardio was holding up very well. He didn't seem to necessarily fully accept crumbling, because I always say about Devin Clark, the moment he pushes himself against the cage, which he was doing constantly against Kennedy, is him accepting the fact that he's going to lose. And he did fire back. He hurt Kennedy. Kennedy covered up very well. And then Kennedy in the second round does a very African Savage thing and basically decapitates Devin Clark. So I had Kennedy and Chaos in a parlay, cashed out. I was a little worried that he got clipped, Kennedy, that is, but he defended well and he recovered well. He has that really high guard. And I'm just really happy to see that Kennedy's just coming onto his own. He can wrestle. He can defend takedowns. I'm not calling him a future world champ, but I like to see these guys who I know have potential get better. Matt Favola knocks out Drew Dober. Another fight, I'm like, don't fucking touch it. Don't touch it. But I couldn't resist. So I looked at the lines before the fight started, and I'm like, I can go with the simple fight doesn't go the distance, or let's see what has the most value. And I'm looking at Matt Favola knockout line, right? And I'm like, ooh, that's looking real good. But of course I don't bet it. I go with Matt Favola submission, which was like plus 900. And like, I knew Drew Dober was capable of knocking out Favola, and I knew Favola had the ability to knock out Drew. I just really, and I'm telling you now, I said it, like, I think Matt has a chance to knock him out, and I'm watching it live, and I was still in shock. I'm like, I know I said it, but I'm like, oh shit, he knocked out Drew Dober. You might say the early stoppage was early. It was a little early, just given that Drew is a tough guy, but I've got no issue with it. Like, he was getting battered on the ground. It's just that we know that Drew's able to come back. I would have liked to have seen him come back, at least to, like, have a fighting chance. But what are you going to do? You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Charles Jourdain defeats Crone Gracie. I had money on Crone. I had a half a unit on him, and I was so embarrassed by that performance. I'm like, God, I deserve to lose this money. But Charles, give him credit. He didn't do anything stupid. Yeah, that's really it. Like, Charles didn't do anything stupid, but expect him to do something stupid next time. Crone, I was expecting more from him. And I do think had he had a little bit more confidence in the punches, he could have potentially hurt Charles. Like, Charles was kind of there to be hit, just like he didn't really like it and hit to the body. He was just kind of, was embarrassing. Evloev versus Diego Lopez. Diego Lopez was, that motherfucker made a really good impression on me. I did bet the over 1.5, and I'll tell you, I was terrified. And I was kind of hoping that Diego, and this was my thought process on the over 1.5, which was like minus 200, and I put like $400 on it. My thought is, if Diego Lopez comes out pretty hard and he throws a solid punch, Evloev will take him down and control him down there. And I think he's got good enough jiu-jitsu to avoid any submissions. Well, lo and behold, there were a couple submissions coming his way that scared the shit out of me. That armbar, I knew it wasn't in, but it was still like pretty, like, oh shit. It was a close one. Like, your split second reactions, like, oh my God, it's in, but you notice that the elbow's out. Diego Lopez, man, he went in there to win, and I respect that. Like, he showed that he's UFC caliber. Evloev, it actually, to me, brought him down a peg, because I think that if Bryce Mitchell were to have fought him and Bryce Mitchell put a pace on him and Bryce Mitchell were to trick him with something crafty, I think he could have submitted him or at least won the fight, because his takedown defense would have been better. I think Evloev, though, he needs to chill out a little bit. Don't call out Volkanovski. I think Volkanovski fucks you up. But next bout, Yan Xiaonan, Jessica Andrade. I had 2 units on Jan, like plus 150 something. I kept telling my girlfriend, like, I hope she makes it look simple because I just want to cash out and be done with it. Like, if she cashes out, mega profitable, don't have to bet anything else, just relax. She does it so simply because, like I kept telling people, like the meme of Jessica Andrade will complete her mission of following the objective to losing to her Chinese overlords, and she did it again. Like it is something about Jessica that if she bum rushes you, she has a chance to crack you. But when you're a good slick striker, which Yan is, I don't give a fuck how bad her takedown defense would have been in this fight had Jessica gotten a takedown. Like it just takes that one punch or the accumulation of punches from Yan Jianan. It is what it is. Straight right hand into from a lead left hook from Jessica Andrade, who was spamming those. I hate to say easy money, but it was easy money. Bilal Muhammad defeats Gilbert Burns. I've got no comments on that. I thought it was really boring. Like, I don't want to take anything away from Bilal. Like, I don't like Bilal. Like, he won the fight, but it's just like, dude, come on. Like, there's a reason why Colby's going to get that fight because he at least makes the fights a bit exciting. Like, his fights, like, I will tell you this right now, and this is my biggest criticism about Bilal. If he gets a title fight, if it's not Colby that he's fighting, I'm not going to watch it. Like that says a lot. I watch every single title fight. I will skip it because I don't care. Like there's nothing there for me. He's not going to do anything spectacular. He's going to just hold guys and just tap them up, barely hurt them. It is what it is. Aljamain Sterling defeats Henry Cejudo by split decision. Now I'll say this: I think it was a robbery in a sense, but I do think Aljamain deserved the nod. It was really close. It could have really gone either way. So I'm not going to say like, oh my God, it was robbed. The victory was robbed from Henry. But in a way it was, because when it comes to judging, and I'm sure everyone's seen it, the Derek Cleary scorecard, that is absolute fucking bullshit. Like, I don't give a fuck if the scorecards were 1, 2, 3, Aljamain Sterling, and then 2 or 4 and 5, Gilbert Burns or Henry Cejudo. It doesn't matter. But to rob Henry of that 5th round, the round that would have given him the title back, and I would have been like, okay, cool. Like, it was a really close fight. I've got no quarrel with it. Like, Aljamain kind of fucked up in the last round. There was a lot of back and forth, so you can't necessarily say that one guy dominated. It was just more of like taking away a guy's round, the round that he clearly won, the more definitive round between all the 5 rounds. I thought that was just like, that's some shady shit. And it almost to me seemed like Derek Cleary was in his mind like, I'm going to give this fight to Aljamain because I've got money on Aljamain or whatever. But he miscalculated, and he's like, well, fuck, I now have to give Aljamain round number 5, so he wins this decision. It just seems so disgusting to me. And again, like, had Henry lost any other rounds, like 3-2, I wouldn't, like, whatever, it is what it is. But losing the 5th round was like, there's something really off here. Like, there's something that needs to be investigated. I usually try to give even the bad judges the benefit of the doubt, but this is fucking ridiculous. And, as I mentioned, like, Aljamain winning is probably the best for the company. Like, he showed a decent account of himself, despite the fact that I think he still looked like absolute shit. Like, he just wins the moments, and I don't think a champion like that is just really that exciting to me. Like, it was mostly Henry Cejudo that made it exciting. The Sean O'Malley fight that's going to come up for Sterling is going to be the most exciting fight because there's a good likelihood that there will be a finish. Either Sterling gets the finish on O'Malley, or O'Malley knocks out Sterling, which is going to be the biggest hype. Like, hey, can he knock out this boring ass champ? The best entire part of the night, though, was when Murad put on that jacket. I didn't see it at first, but when I saw it afterwards, I'm like, this fucking dude was hilarious. He's just fucking wearing the jacket like nothing, man. Overall, profitable night. I made like 6 units or so. It was fine. Like, I'm still fairly profitable each card, and I get a feeling the momentum's gonna end because I actually did have a bet on Cejudo. So it would have been up 7 units, but I did bet 1 unit on Cejudo. And it is what it is. I kind of went with my gut on it. For Henry, though, there's talks about retirement. I really don't know, man. Like, I heard him talk about how he wants to spend more time with his daughter and his new kid. So I get it, but I don't think he looked bad. I do think he put on a performance and well enough to win the title from a tough guy. in Aljamain, especially the size and reach and whatnot. I did think Henry was going to look a little bit more imposing in there. He's going to be a little bit quicker, but yeah, you did see not the ring rust per se, but you did see him be a little bit of a step behind. It wasn't as quick. He wasn't as bouncy on his feet. And yeah, it is what it is. It's not a bad win for Sterling. It's just still adding to the, hey, you essentially lost to a guy that there's still that narrative behind him, and he's not having the best fights. And even afterwards, they were booing him like, you lost in your own backyard. Essentially, it's just a bad look for Aljamain. And then he turned quote unquote heel on the crowd. I'm like, that's your crowd, and they still fucking hate you. But it is what it is, But let's get started with this card because, as I mentioned, I'm just gonna kind of run through it. Let me get onto the right screen. All right, first fight of the night. Jessica Rose Clark, Jess versus Dainara Lisboa, Thai Panther. So, as we know, Jessica Rose Clark, shitty at defending arm bars. I don't think there's going to be much of an armbar threat from Lisboa. She's a Muay Thai champion. She's got no ground game. It's getting better. I think I saw her actually get a arm triangle on the girl, but it was more of like the girl gave up. It was not a very good arm triangle. Minus 150 for Rose Clark. Plus 125 for Lisboa. I think Jessica Rose Clark, if she not necessarily exposes the girl because she's been exposed, but I'll give you this: she did fight Lisboa. She fought Valentina in Muay Thai. She lost, and then she lost to Norma Dumont. I think her first pro fight where she got choked out. Like her striking's good. I'll give her that. Very good striking. Just that the ground game is not great. Like she's definitely working on it, but I think Jessica Rose Clark can put on a very smart performance here, take her down, control her, possibly pound her out or submit her. So I'm going to go with Jessica Rose Clark, the favorite. I want no part in it. I think Jessica's kind of a low IQ kind of girl. She's very strong. She's beautiful. I would eat Vegemite for her, if you know what I'm saying. Just don't get into the clinch, and if you do get into the clinch, immediately like trip her down or shoot for the double leg, or just do not engage on the feet with her because she's a pretty good striker, and that's the main reason why she's here. Let's move on here. Gabe Green versus Brian Battle. So we've got Gabe Gifted Green versus Brian the Butcher Battle. So it's Triple B Brian Battle versus Triple G. Wait a minute, what the fuck? I can't say Triple G. Is that because is it trademarked by boxing that I can't say Triple G? Gabe Green, Gifted Gabe Green. Triple fuck, okay. Can't say that. Anyways, minus 125 for Gabe Green. Come back on Brian Battle, plus 100. I was going back and forth on this one because I think a lot of these fights are very, very close. Like Gabe Green, good boxer, good cardio. A little short for the class, for welterweight. He's 5'10" compared to the 6'1" of Brian Battle. Brian Battle looked essentially bad his last fight, but it's not that he looked bad. It's just that he fought a guy he was not ready for. In what the fuck was his name? Yeah, Fakhretdinov. He's got good kicks. He's got good cardio. He's got good volume. I think his kicks is probably the best attribute that he has. He has a lot of volume with the kicks. Brian Battle does. More so when it comes to Gabe Green, it's the boxing. He has to come in the inside. He's solid, right? He's a solid guy. I really don't know what to make of this particular fight. I'm going to go with the dog, though. I'm going to go with Brian Battle. I do think because it's going to be such a close fight, the power advantage will come for Brian Battle. He'll have the kicks. He'll have the length. He can keep him on the outside. He's got a 77-inch reach compared to the 73 of Gabe Green. So he's got that 4-inch reach advantage. I think he can use it. It's just, I think the issue is that because I saw Brian look a little funky his last time out, I might be a little tentative at taking him at dog odds. Funny enough, if he was at like minus 120, I'd be like, yeah, he's a good bet. But at plus 100, I'm like, maybe the odds makers know something I don't. And another thing, Gabe has lost to some tall, lanky dudes. Like he lost to another guy on this card. Ian Gary, by just kind of being outpointed, being too quick. He did beat another tall, lanky guy in Phil Rowe, but I think he exploited Phil Rowe's takedown defense. In this particular fight, just because Brian Battle matches his his cardio, I think he'll be able to take it. I think it's going to be a close decision. I think Brian Battle might be able to get a head kick. I don't think Gabe Green's going to be able to finish Brian Battle. I'll take potentially the dog on this one. Like I might consider a bet on him. I do have maybe, I think, 2 bets already on this card. Let's move on. Next bout, Ji Young Kim versus Mandy Buhm. I'm going to go with Mandy Buhm. She's plus 205, minus 250 for Ji Young Kim. Realistically, though, Kim is much better on the feet, better on the ground. Buhm sucks. Like I had high hopes for her just because I'm like, hey, she's got a decent enough striking repertoire. I've seen her get knockouts and whatnot. But I cannot take a loser in Ji Young Kim at minus 250, although I think she probably should win. It's kind of female MMA dog season, so I'll go with Mandy Buhm. Maybe she makes the improvements. Maybe Ji Young Kim is winning the fight and then she gets cracked. Who fucking knows? I don't particularly care. I'm going to go with Mandy Buhm by decision. Next bout, I've talked about this fight before. Got postponed. I forgot what happened where one of these assholes pulled out, but Natan Levy, Pete Rodriguez. So minus 195 for Levy. Comeback on Rodriguez is a plus 230. Let me drink some Diet A&W. So Natan Levy, to break him down very quickly, I think he's very talented. I think he's got a lot going for him. I think his kicks are good. His kicks are hard. If you're out in distance, he's going to crack you to the body or to the head. His hands aren't as good as his kicks. He's got a traditional karate background. I mentioned it before that there's a possibility of this maybe going to a draw or a possibility of a point deduction because he throws the inside leg kick opposed to the outside leg kick. The inside leg kick is more of a traditional martial art type of thing for karate. And I think there's a chance he might check the cup of Pete Rodriguez. Pete, heavy hands, good boxing, good punches to the body, extensive amateur record, and he's currently 5-1. I thought he looked pretty decent against Jack Della. And by that, I mean he punched Jack. Not many people do that these days. So his hands are good. I think that if Pete can survive, if Pete can survive Natan Levy and his kicks with it, I think he will. And if he can stuff takedowns, and I mean, Pete's a strong dude. He's 5'9", he fought at 170. I think he can definitely stuff the takedowns. I know he's making the trip out to MMA Lab. At those dog odds, for a guy like Lethal Natan Levy, who I've seen him slow down, I've seen him need to go to the wrestling resort when he fought Gennaro Valdez. Like Gennaro was putting it on him after like the second round. Like it just picked up the pace. And I think if Pete can do that, invest in the body shots, invest in the hands, getting close, crowd the kicker, avoid any takedowns. I think it's Pete Rodriguez's fight to lose here. I think Natan, obviously, he's definitely favored because he's got more UFC wins. He's more explosive. He's more dynamic. Technically in a better team because I don't think Pete's full-time at MMA Lab. But if they are drilling takedown defense and just attacking the body with knees and close, hooks to the body and then hitting the head, I think the body is the way you stop Natan Levy. And Pete's got a good body game. So I'll go with Pete. I'll say TKO in the second round. First round, Natan's going to look really goddamn good. And if he can finish Pete, power to him. But at those odds, I don't trust Natan Levy to, use his quote-unquote jiu-jitsu, J-E-W jitsu. So I'll go with Pete Rodriguez. Next bout, funny enough, it's the easiest one for me. I think he's going to knock him out whenever he feels like. Minus 300 for Carlos Blackjack Oberg. Come back on Ihor Duelis Buteria is plus 240. It's Carlos Oberg's going to win. There's no way he loses this fight. Like, right? Am I fucking stupid? No, there's no way he loses this fight against Ihor. And I kept telling people, Ihor is the worst light heavyweight in this division. He is the absolute worst fighter in that division. And the fact that he, to an extent, was getting pieced up by a zombie Shogun kind of tells me that this guy sucks. Like, he ended up clipping Shogun. He finished him fantastic, right? Like, I banked that he would. But come on, man. Like, the guy's awful. Like, if Carlos Oberg, who I think in his last fight showed his maximum self when it comes to his striking game. Like, outside, hard leg kick, outside, 1-2, outside, like kick, like just frustrate your opponent, let him come to you. Don't do anything crazy, and then just clip him. His punches are good. And last year I was talking mad shit on Carlos Ulberg because the asshole, I picked him to win against Fabio Cherant by knockout, and the fucker decisions him. He decisions Fabio Cherant, at the time the worst light heavyweight in that division. I am worried of the same thing happening here, where he just doesn't engage with Ihor, but clearly beats him. So I keep mentioning sometimes money line is better. Sometimes money line is better. Don't go down that road. Minus 300. I'm probably gonna take a shot like chalk on Ulberg again. I don't see a fucking snowball's chance in hell that he loses this fight because Ihor is not good at all. Terrible defense, terrible cardio. You know, the fact that he MMA math even says so. He lost to one of my favorite guys in Nego Mariano, and Carlos Ulberg just destroyed Nego Mariano. Yeah, Nego Mariano's a tough bastard, and he knocked him out cold. Yeah, I don't like Ihor. Like his stupid little dueling dance. Like, ugh. I was so offended by that. I don't get offended by much, but him doing that dance, like where he's like gets his flintlock, points it, and he's like, "No, I respect my opponent." I shot it in the air, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. To me, that is the most offensive thing ever. Like, I might dislike him more than I dislike Bilal. Let's just say that. But yeah, Carlos Ulberg, a guy that I shed on a lot, rightfully so. He should be able to finish fights. Now he's finishing dudes. Perhaps because I was shitting on him and I hurt his feelings. He's like, I better finish fights, or else Johnny from Tiger Bomb's going to keep talking about me. So I'll go with Carlos Ulberg to knock him the fuck out. Next bout. This is another pretty close fight. I kind of was going back and forth. I got Cody Stamann by decision. The reason for it is that Cody's very elusive now. He's trying to use his boxing more. He's trying to get more finishes, but he's always got the wrestling in the back pocket. Douglas Da Silva de Andrade, he kicks hard, he throws hard hooks, works the body well. He can get submissions, obviously, if a guy's hurt. And the guy's tough and gritty as fudge. It's just that I just see Cody winning at least 2 rounds. I think Douglas Da Silva de Andrade, he plots around too much. Cody's going to be too quick for him, and he's going to just blast double him, take him down, or just hold him up against the cage. There's not a whole ton of threat off of the back of Da Silva de Andrade. Like, yeah, Douglas can crack him. It's not like I'm discounting Douglas. Like, it's a close fight. Minus 125 for Cody. Come back on de Andrade Da Silva plus 105. So it's close. I get why it's close. Like, Douglas is probably not going to get knocked out by Cody, and if he invests in the low kicks early, it's a double-edged sword. He throws a leg kick, it could affect Cody's movement, or Cody ducks under, takes him down. It is what it is. It just depends on which tool is better for that fighter that night. So I want nothing to do with it, but I will take Cody by a decision. Next bout, I've got more to say about these shittier fights than I do about like the actual good fights. But this fight, this one was tough for me as well. And I've got a lot to say about Chase Sherman. Carl Williams, not as much, but I'll give Carl Williams his props. Like, he is a big physical dude, 6'3". His wrestling is his best attribute. His striking, he's got power. He just doesn't really feel comfortable on the feet yet, especially with a guy like Chase Sherman, who is on paper better at striking. But if it's what I find crazy about this sport. Is someone better at striking if, say, one guy's getting knockouts, but he's shitty at it, but another guy is just so crisp and technical, but he's not getting knockouts? Like, if you get an Ngannou who just taps you with like a woof, he's more effective with that woof than, say, Jack Della, who is, I'm not saying he's not getting knockouts, but if he didn't get knockouts, like, who's more effective? Like, just crazy to me. Like, Carl Williams can come in here and just woof him, and Chase Sherman just hits the ground, and you're like, well, there goes your fucking better striker. But yeah, on paper, Chase is a better striker. He's going to have to invest in the low kicks early. Him being a plus 310 is like tempting, but minus 420 for Carl Williams, it's like a no-go. Like, I don't want to parlay him up because, like, I saw in his last fight with Bresky that he got tired. Bresky was kind of getting back up. It's so uninteresting to me, this fight. Like, I'm going to watch it, But what's uninteresting in it, and even doing the research on it, is that like no matter what the research says, it is a much closer fight than this. And going back and watching tape proves it as well. Like Carl is going to spam takedowns, and if he can successfully break Chase Sherman, it's a wrap. Chase is a guy who I've seen this guy win a championship in a bare knuckle. I know how tough and gritty this guy is when it comes to like what's inside of him. But what's inside here is a self-destruct button and a lot of self-doubt. And I hate seeing it every single time. And I know he can win this fight. I don't know if he believes he can win this fight. Previously, I did have a bet on Chase when it got initially announced, where Carl took it on short notice. But now that it's not on short notice and Carl has some time to, train a little bit, I think Carl's going to win it. I do think that Carl's going to decision him up. It's not a bet I'm going to place. I'll probably still take Chase on the case that he ends up kicking him. If he leg kicks him early and attacks him enough to slow him down and avoids the takedowns, that is going to wear on Carl Williams' gas tank. It's not going to result in Carl like being hesitant to go for takedowns. He's still going to spam him. But I think Chase has a really good shot to win this fight. It just, if I see him having a good first round and Carl Williams becomes a dog, I might just take Carl Williams. I'll say that. So I'll go with Williams by decision. This one, also quite interesting. We've got Matt Brown versus Court the Crusher McGee. Matt Brown plus 150. Comeback on McGee is minus 180. So very fun fight. Two so-called veterans of the sport. I say so-called because I don't know if I would want to call Court McGee a veteran. He is, but it's just like I think Matt Brown's like on a higher level than Court McGee. If this was, say, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I think he would destroy Court McGee. But this is a new matchup where it could be closer. And Matt Brown, I hate to say it, but I think that last fight with Barberena was all that Matt Brown had. He's 42 years old. And I just kind of saw whatever was left in his spirit to fight just get drained in that fight, because a lot of people might say it was a robbery, a split decision robbery. Barberena beat him 2-1. Round number 1 was Matt Brown. Round number 2, Barberena. Round number 3 was Matt Brown until Barberena stole it back. He stole it back by cracking Matt Brown. I think Matt had a couple takedowns. Brian kept getting back up, and then Brian near the end nearly finished him. So damage wins fights. Holding a fucker against the cage ain't gonna win you shit. But when I broke this fight down, it was pretty evident that I think Court McGee's going to win. I think his cardio is going to be better. Matt Brown's cardio is just suffering severely. He's more open to get hit. Yes, he still has that knockout power. Court's not really a guy that gets knocked out. Really, I know he got knocked out last time by that ridiculous Jeremiah Wells power. But what are you going to do, right? Jeremiah Wells would do the prison grape to Matt Brown. Let's just say that. I love Matt Brown. I can tell you stories about me watching Matt Brown. I've said them before. I don't want to really bore people anymore, but like I love Matt. He's one of these guys that like I wish he goes out on a win, but I think Court McGee's going to weaponize his pace, going to weaponize the body kicks, push him up against the cage, avoid anything significant, take down Matt Brown, beat him up, and just kind of coast to a decision. There's a chance he actually gets a finish if he attacks Matt Brown's supple, soft, hate to say this, but heroin-induced body. And if he hits him just right, I think he can put him out of there. Like Matt Brown's always getting hurt to the body, and I think Court's got a pretty decent kick to the body. So, I'll go Court McGee by decision. Next bout, another fight where I kind of knew what I was going to pick, but Tim Means versus Alekkks Morono, the Dirty Bird versus the Great White Supremacist, minus 240 for Alekkks the Morono. Come back on Dirty Bird Means, plus 190. We've got Albuquerque versus Texas. And yeah, Morono's a good fighter. Absolutely. But minus 240 against a veteran like Tim Means, another striker. Like Morono's been knocked out a lot. Like I love his movement, but it's just kind of like a matter of time with him, right? Like I love his awkwardness. I love his mentality when it comes to the fighting game. Like he's a very smart guy. I just think that in certain matchups, when he's this favorite, it ain't worth it, obviously. Knowing that at any moment, if he gets hit just right, he can get knocked out. Ponzinibbio did it to him. And Ponzinibbio's a dog. Ponzinibbio's a much more credentialed striker than, say, a Matthew Semmelsberger, who I thought he was going to finish Alekkks Morono. And Alekkks is always getting hurt. And Dirty Bird means, like, he's on a 2-fight losing streak. I know he got finished against Kevin Holland, but he's progressively getting better, right? Tim Means, that is. His wrestling's getting better. You know, he is slowing down a bit. He's going to be the taller guy. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. I'm going to go with Tim Means, and the main reason is because I was thinking, yeah, Morono has a good chance to potentially steal minutes from Tim Means. But the thing about Tim Means that made me kind of more confident in taking a shot at the plus 190 is that he extends his combinations. Morono's kind of a one-punch kind of guy, like a looping hand or a kick. But Tim Means is a type of guy that, like, he slaps a bit to get the range, and then he extends his combinations. He throws 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe slap, 1, 2. And I think he's going to have a really good chance to hurt Alekkks Morono. And if he hurts Alekkks, it's a matter of time before he gets finished, right? I don't know if I've ever seen Alekkks get hurt and come back. And that knockout that he took against Ponzinibbio, man, I went back and rewatched it. Ponzinibbio froze his face. Like, he was like, he got clipped, and he was like he was making an ecstasy face. Like, so I didn't like that at all. And I think Tim Means doesn't necessarily have to have the power to hurt Alekkks. He just has to be precise. And with his long arms and his good boxing, I think he's going to be able to do so. So I'll go with Tim Means, round number 2, TKO. Next bout, Daniel Rodriguez versus Ian Machado Gary. For this particular fight, like, I've already got a bet on Gary. I'm not even going to spend too much time talking about it, but I got a bet with Gary and Olberg on a parlay. And I think I might have got another one with Court, Gary, and Olberg as well. I don't remember if I placed that one or not, but he's minus 240. Comeback on D-Rod is plus 200. D-Rod, to me, he's fought this fight before and he's lost it. He's lost it a handful of times. Like Jing Liang, same kind of fight in the sense of, like, a guy on the outside kicks. He lost to Dalby, guy on the outside who kicks. He lost to Neil Magny. Neil Magny was piecing him up a little bit on the feet, caused his nose to bleed. Ian Gary, and I've said this a lot about Gary in the past, is that he's incredibly talented, and I have my notes here. He's extremely coachable. Like, there's a lot to really like about an athlete like Ian Gary. He's a tall dude, 6'3", 74-inch reach. Surprising that he doesn't have the longer reach here, but with the kicks, which he utilizes beautifully, I think he's going to be able to keep him at bay. He's got a great jab to the face, jab to the body. He does get exposed a little bit with the chin, and he got cracked his last time out, and I'll talk about that extensively, what I didn't like about it and what I did like about him getting cracked by Song. But he's fought this fight himself before. He's fought guys. Gabe Green, a guy, another boxer, needs to come in on the inside, although he's definitely shorter than Daniel Rodriguez. He's fought that fight before. Song Kanan, another guy, massive power, wants to come on the inside, a little slow. Daniel Rodriguez is much slower than both those guys. And I think Machado's going to pick him apart. If he makes a mistake and he gets finished, that's going to be on Ian Gary. And I doubt he's going to make that mistake. The reason for it is that when he did get clipped by Kenan Song, it was definitely a mistake on his part. Like, he just left himself too exposed because he felt like, I've got no threat coming back to me. At that moment in the first round, like, Kenan hadn't thrown really anything significant. And kind of left himself exposed. What I hated about that is that the way he recovered. He was on all fours. And an experienced guy like Daniel, if he catches him like that, he's going to uppercut him up the armpit, knock him out fucking cold. He got on all fours. He started crawling to the cage. And I'm like, dude, you're just begging to get knocked out like that. And that's very much so inexperienced. He's still 11-0. He's 25 years old. But the thing I keep saying about this guy is the more time he has in the cage, the better he's going to get. The more time in the gym, the better he's going to get. And the fact that he's making these mistakes and recovering well, because after he recovered from that shot, didn't make any other stupid fucking mistake. He's like, okay, live and learn. And he definitely lived and he definitely learned, which was great because I had money on the motherfucker. And I kept saying, like, the moment this guy starts feeling more comfortable and the moment he starts letting his hands go, he's going to start getting more finishes. The moment he felt comfortable in that third round against Kenan Song, where he had put so much damage on him to the legs, to the body, to the eye socket with the jab, he let the hands go, and it just put him in that perfect state of like bam, bam, pull back, bam, bam, knee to the body, and just finishes guys, right? I don't know if he'll finish Daniel Rodriguez because he's a tough dude, but he will for sure beat him. Minimum decision. Daniel Rodriguez, I keep mentioning, like he gets picked apart on the outside, kind of loops in. He's got good boxing, good body shots, but to me, a guy who kicks as hard as Ian Gary to the leg, he's going to stop the plotting movement. That's kind of funny to say because Daniel really kind of plots forward, but he's very lead leg heavy, and I think Gary's going to really chew him up with those leg kicks. So I'm going to go with Ian Gary to get another win. I think they're giving him really good steps up in competition. I know there's going to be a good matchup for him where I probably fade him, but right now, I think Daniel Rodriguez is like perfect for him. He's a decent enough name. He's a solid fighter, but he's just completely outmatched here against Ian Gary. And if he comes out here and he knocks him out, like props, right? It is him exploiting the still relatively inexperience of Ian Gary. I just don't see it happening with how absolutely talented this guy is. And I just keep saying it, like you give him more time, he's going to keep getting better. If this guy was not doing all the right things, like I'm seeing, like he's to me doing everything perfectly. He's at Kill Cliff. He's always talking about how he's getting his ass beat in the gym, and like that's a sign of a guy that like wants to get better. And he's talking to him like, oh, Jason Jackson's beating my ass, and Gilbert Burns is beating my ass. I'm like, yes, like the better guys are going to make you better. You're going to get your ass beat in the meantime. But moving on, this fucking fight. Co-main event, light heavyweight. That is Anthony Smith, Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker minus 115. Come back on Anthony Smith is a minus 105. So Johnny Walker, very similar to Ian Gary in the sense that like he's incredibly athletic, very talented, leaves his chin in the air. If he gets cracked, he does the funny Johnny Walker dance. Like I like a lot about Johnny Walker. Like Johnny Walker with the chin, double champ right now. The guy is solid. He's very good, very long. Obviously, he's 6'6", 82-inch reach. Anthony Smith, he's a dog. He's 6'4", 76-inch reach. What is interesting about this fight is that it depends on which Anthony Smith is going to show up. If Anthony Smith comes out here and he's like, I'm going to put the fight, I'm going to bring the fight straight to Johnny, he's got a good chance to knock him out. The thing is that you're going to be running through a wood chipper when it comes to Johnny Walker. Like if you don't hit him clean, the guy's got the ridiculously stupid power where he can probably slap you with his backhand and knock you out. But the guy is so tall, so awkward. If you can get him down to the ground, it might be an intriguing matchup because Anthony Smith, I think he's a much better overall fighter, technically better on the feet, probably grittier, better chin. It's just that it doesn't matter sometimes when you're that athletic like Johnny Walker. And I just don't think that Anthony Smith has the physicality to really do anything significant to put Johnny Walker at any sort of like discomfort or any sort of bad spots. Like when he fought Ian Cutelaba, I actually had Johnny, like I'll say this, when did he fight Ian Cutelaba? Because I should bring this up. I was having one of the worst nights of my entire betting career. Like I had lost so many fucking bets. I was like, oh Jesus, man. Like the main card's about to start, and I'd already lost like all my money. So I put like $50 in my account. I'm like, Hail Mary. Let's go with the Hail Mary parlay. I'm like, screw it. Let's go with Johnny Walker, dog odds, Jessica Andrade, Gilbert Burns, Brandon Moreno, and Jamal Hill. And luckily it all cashed. I made my money back. But I was like, am I really going to bet Johnny Walker against, oh wait, that wasn't it. Wrong fight. I did bet that, but that was a different night. It was Diaz versus Ferguson. Ooh. It was Johnny Walker, Irene Aldana, Daniel Rodriguez, Khamzat Chimaev, and I said, fuck it to the main event. That is the parlay where I had the horrible, horrible night. And yeah, Johnny Walker, dog odds against Ian Cutelaba, Irene Aldana, meme knockout, got really lucky. Daniel Rodriguez, split decision loss, and but he won. Anyways, Khamzat submission over Kevin Holland. That Johnny Walker submission over Ian Cutelaba, was like a sign in the right direction. Like, this guy is definitely training. He's not just doing anything stupid. Like, he needs to learn that he can use his physicality against these guys. Like, he's a big dude. Why not grapple them if you've got the jiu-jitsu? Like, he's just so big that he can get on top of guys, either pound them out or, in this case, submit them. Johnny Walker, who is patient, a Johnny Walker who isn't going to go ballistic, I think is a very dangerous Johnny Walker. A much more dangerous Johnny Walker than a guy who is like, "Ooh, I'm coming for you." Just come straight at you. Like, he's more likely to get knocked out. I think Johnny Walker is going to knock out Anthony Smith. I'm going to say in the second round. I think that in the first round, Johnny's not going to do much. Neither guy will. And Johnny's going to invest to the body. Nice kicks to the body, kicks to the leg. And if Anthony comes out here and does his thing and he just bum rushes him and boxes him up and knocks him out, cool. But I think Johnny right now, who is, again, more technical to a degree, I think he's more willing to just kind of stay on the outside and wait, use his long range weapons, which is ridiculously intelligent. Why not use your fucking reach? Throw the kicks, throw the jab, kicks up the middle, and then make Anthony Smith come to you. And that's when you like chop him up, carve him up. And I think he might actually freeze Anthony Smith. Like, he got frozen a bit in his last fight against Magomed, where he didn't really do much. Like, Magomed froze him up. Like, he can't really say anything else. Like, he had nothing for him. And of course, he did hurt his ankle. What's to say he can't get hurt again by Johnny Walker? So I'll say Johnny Walker, second round TKO. Main event, Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Almeida. The odds automatically, you cannot bet Almeida, whether you think he's going to win or not, easily, or come back from a hard first round. Who knows? Biggie Boy plus 400. To me, it's like an auto bet. This is the best heavyweight he has fought. Granted, it's not the best heavyweight, period. It's a very winnable fight for the God King, Jailbird Almeida. But if Jairzinho Rozenstruik can crack him solid once, and Almeida got cracked his last fight against Abdurakhimov, cracked him solid. If Jairzinho can hit him once, he's gonna be seeing little birdies. It's like, I gotta take a shot on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Yeah, Jairzinho really hasn't evolved as much. His last win was against Christakis. Bum rushed him, trying to take his gun. If Almeida can get the first takedown, it's going to be a wrap. Like, he's just so good on the ground. He's too good for these heavyweights on the ground. What I hate about Almeida as of late is that he doesn't engage on the feet long enough to make the obvious takedown slightly less obvious. And that's what worries me here. I'm gonna take Almeida, or not Almeida, but Rozenstruik. Really don't give a fuck about these predictions. Like, I'm not putting too much thought into it. I'm going with my gut because I know that Rozenstruik can win this fight, and I'll explain to you how. Because Almeida, again, takes it down once, it's a wrap. I don't think Rozenstruik's going to survive. It's got no ground game. But I'm banking on the less than 1% chance that, because Almeida does the same thing over and over, stupid front kick up the middle. And I say stupid front kick because it's kind of like a decoy. Like, if he pokes the body to like his opponents, great, it's an effective shot, but he immediately blasts for a takedown immediately after that, because like, he is fighting at heavyweight. He's fighting dudes that can clearly knock him out. He doesn't really want to engage too much because he takes him down and exploits the shit out of that terrible, terrible ground game of these heavyweights. So why not do that? In this particular case, he's fighting a guy who has ridiculous power and he can do flying knees. So that's what I'm kind of banking on. I think that because Almeida is probably going to do the same thing where he throws a teep up the middle, whether it lands to the body or he throws it just as a decoy, he's going to spam that blast double under, or the low single, or the low double, or the ankle pick. I think Almeida can pop him with a flying knee up the middle, possibly knock him out. It's just really, the odds are just so bad that I can't. Like, it, to me, I'll probably take Almeida by inside the distance. Hopefully I can get like minus 140 on that. But just taking Jairzinho Rozenstruik either by knockout or just straight money line. Like, I don't think I'm going to bet too much on this card. If I do, I'll probably take a shot on Rozenstruik for the hell of it. It's not the card to bet. Like, there's just too many close fights, too many goofy things that can happen. Yeah, I might actually bet Dirty Bird means. But yeah, I think that Rozenstruik can get the knockout. It's not based on skill. I think Almeida is just so dominant with his grappling. Like, he's incredibly strong. I thought he was going to have a little bit more trouble than he did with Duakimov, but he lifted his ass up and dropped him. Like, he's a very strong man, and he can afford to go for that. Like, I'm going to waste all my energy on that first takedown, because the moment he gets you down, that's really a wrap. But because I like the odds, I'm gonna take fucking Rozenstruik, like, whatever. So I'll go with Rozenstruik by first round knockout. Unlikely to happen, but plus 400, why not? Let's go with that. But yeah, those are my predictions for UFC on ABC4, Rozenstruik versus Almeida. Let me know what your least favorite fight is and what your favorite fight is. Or don't. Who fucking cares? This entire event is going to be kind of shitty. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on the whatever. Like, share, subscribe. I usually would say fuck Oldberg, but I got money on him, so fuck Pretoria.